Remember what it was like to be a kid? To explore and play. To roam free all day. In Jamestown, North Carolina, we get out of the grind and escape into the moment. People feel good here. Let loose here. Eat well here. Feel swell here. We go for a ride or an afternoon stroll. We cheer each other on. And go for the goal. Here, a treasured history meets the energy of a town on the rise. In a place with true heart and soul, and where we have our own special beat. Jamestown, North Carolina, where history and possibility meet.
Good evening. My name is Russell Walker. I'm the Vice Chair of the Jamestown Planning Board, and in the absence of our Chair, Ed Stafford, I will be trying to run this meeting. Welcome, all of you. It's nice to see a crowd. And I will call the meeting to order. Katie, would you call the roll?
Yes. Ed Stafford is absent. Russ Walker.
Here.
Denise Johnson is absent. Jane Walker Payne.
Here.
Dennis Shull.
Here.
John Capes.
Here.
Robert Kuhn is absent. Donald Dale.
Here.
Peggy Levi.
Here.
Sherry Richmond.
Here.
William McLean.
Here.
And Pam Burgess, our council representative, is present. A quorum is present.
Thank you, Katie. The second item, or the third item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 12th. And I would ask for a motion.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from February the 12th.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Been a motion made, second. All those in favor of approval of the minutes of the February 12th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hear none. The fourth item on our agenda is a public hearing on a rezoning request for 1903 and 1905 and 1915 Guilford College Road from single-family residential to conditional zoning multifamily residential. Matt, ask you to present the report from the staff.
Well, good evening, Planning Board. I am not Anna. Anna is out this evening. She's sick. So I am pinch hitting for her this evening. I hope that she does feel better soon. As you said, the location is 1903 and 1905-1915 Guilford College Road, parcels number 159-062 and 159-061, totaling approximately 18.704 acres per the survey. Proposed rezoning from single-family residential to conditional zoning, multifamily residential. There are some conditions that we'll go over in just a little bit. As you can see on the screen, the Equestrian Center property overview. To the north, you have Chadwick Drive. To the south, Hickory Hollow. To the west, Guilford College. And to the east, there's a brand-new development by Pulte Homes, and with an extension of a road that goes in there as well. It's currently used for an equestrian center, providing boarding lessons and training for horses. That is a legally existing nonconformity in a single-family zoning district. It's bordered to the north, the south, and the west by single-family residential, and to the east by conditional district residential multifamily 5, which is the city of Greensboro. That's really tough to see, I apologize. Open space and tree conservation is required. The required open space is 1.87 acres, and required tree conservation area is 1.12 acres. There are 2 streets, as I said, Chadwick and Guilford College Road, which are adjacent to the property. It is currently not served with water and sewer, but water is available from 2 different locations that are nearby, and sewer is accessible from an easement on the southeast corner of the site. The applicant is requesting a single-family rezoning to conditional zoning multifamily residential, and the multifamily residential district is defined as the multifamily residential district ensures the conformity of existing multifamily residential neighborhoods, and it provides for the development of new multifamily residential neighborhoods in a pattern that encourages the wise use of land. Allowed building and lot types in the multifamily district are attached houses and multifamily. The neighborhoods in this district consist primarily of currently existing multifamily developments. Standards for the multifamily residential district ensure that new development maintains the character of the community. Multifamily residential district permits the completion and conformity of existing multifamily residential subdivisions already existing or approved in preliminary plat or sketch plan formed by the town prior developments. The town encourages the clustering of development and protection of open space through the use of the cluster development overlay district. There are several conditions that the applicant has put forth to the town for consideration. The first of which would be a maximum number of units, which would be 99. The floor area per unit, the living area, would be between 1,500 and 2,500 square feet. A 2-story maximum building height. The use would be multifamily residential townhomes. There are no apartments proposed. All installations shall be in conformance with the DOT regulations for traffic, access, and roadway improvements. An 8-foot concrete side path, which is the sidewalk, it's a little bit larger sidewalk, will be provided along Guilford College Road. That's a recommendation that comes from our pedestrian transportation plan. All interior streets will be provided in conformance with the town of Jamestown standards with a minimum centerline radius of 125 feet allowed at the offset bulbs. And a landscaping berm will be provided within the 30-foot buffer along Guilford College Road. This is an illustrative site plan showing the basic layout of what the applicant is proposing. We always look at our comprehensive plan and we consider future land use. And this particular area was slated for suburban residential. Just to read that to you, the suburban residential land use classification is the most prevalent of the future land use classifications applied on the future land use map. It encompasses the majority of the planned residential neighborhoods in the community outside of the town's traditional core area. And although primarily developed in larger single-family residential subdivisions, this land use classification is also intended to accommodate lower intensity attached residential development in the same context, along with low intensity civic uses such as churches. Where undeveloped land is included in this classification, it is intended to be developed in a manner similar to adjacent suburban residential development. Again, from the comprehensive plan, we look at several different guiding principles. Anna has identified several of the guiding principles for your consideration this evening. Guiding principle number 1 is that Jamestown will actively facilitate high-quality growth that is both compatible with the town's traditional development pattern, as well as innovative in how it meets the needs of our diverse and dynamic community. To do that, we would implement subdivision standards that facilitate growth in a manner that achieves the town's desired urban development pattern and quality of public infrastructure. Principle number 2 from the comprehensive plan is, as the strength of our community is directly tied to the long-term success of our neighborhoods, we work diligently to promote and maintain the quality of life and aesthetic standards that our residents expect in Jamestown. We would do that through ensuring that the residents have access to housing that is appropriate for all stages of life and family situation, including housing that will allow older residents to age in place. Guiding principle number 4 is the ability to safely walk and ride a bicycle throughout the town is critical to maintaining our community's high quality of life. We will ensure that the community is well connected with the necessary infrastructure to support walking and biking as an important mode of transportation for all residents. We do that through providing that every neighborhood in Jamestown be connected to a pedestrian system that will allow them to walk safely to any other destination in the community. That's always a work in progress. Guiding principle number 10 is that Jamestown is a welcoming and inclusive community that values the benefits of diversity in all aspects of town and its residents. We would do so through the promotion of development and the retention of a wide range of housing types that meets the needs of current and future residents of all ages, abilities, family compositions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. We would also ensure that residents of the ETJ are included and consulted on matters that affect their neighborhoods and encourage their participation in the social and civic life of Jamestown. So before you this evening, there are a couple of decisions. First of all, is the conditional zoning multifamily residential zoning district an appropriate zoning district to apply in this situation? And number 2, is the request consistent with the comprehensive plan? Our technical review committee has reviewed the request, and we do feel that it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. However, it would be appropriate to request some additional conditions in order to better achieve the aesthetic and superior construction quality that's expected by the community to enhance the value and quality of life. Anna and I did discuss this. We are going to ask the board to open the public hearing to hear from the residents, but we are going to suggest that after the neighborhood meeting the other night, we were able to listen into some of that, that there are some things that need to be answered, and that we feel like a recommendation to continue this hearing to the April meeting would be in order. I know that the applicant is here. Justin Nifong is here on behalf of the applicant to speak to you this evening. But if you have specific questions for staff, I'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Anyone have questions at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Just a little bit of information. This is for the folks that are listening at home and for the folks that are here this evening. The way that this process works is that you, as a board, a planning board, your job is to hear applicants that come to you with requests. This is not something that the town went out and sought. This is an application that came to us for rezoning. We are required to take it through this process. Once you have heard it and you have made a recommendation, most likely at the April meeting, that will be forwarded to our town council, where another public hearing will be held, and the public will be notified of that through signage, through mailings, and through our website. At that point, the town council will have the final say in the rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Nifong, would you like to be happy to hear from you?
Yes, may I please the board? My name is Justin Nifong. I'm mindful that we've got a packed house here tonight. We did answer a fair number of questions last week, and there were many more presented as well. We're supportive of the continuation request by your town manager, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you may have.
Anyone have questions for Mr. Nifong?
I have a couple. Just as far as buffer set up on Guilford College Road, is there, one of the things that I was wondering from the conversation we had, and obviously I'm just asking, but as you go down the road, forgive me, I can't read that. It's not Chadwick, it's the other side.
Hickory Hollow.
Yeah. From the Hickory Hollow side, I'm wondering if where those townhomes are currently earmarked, if there is the possibility to wrap the berm going there so that it would be more of a break between the people that are already established living versus, the townhome specifically. And I realize, it's strictly in your hands. I'm just asking if that's something that would be considered.
Well, it's conditional use request, right? So I think that's a fair question for you to ask. So if I understand it correctly, what is proposed now is a 30-foot buffer, right? Your request was, is it possible to put a berm there and part of the buffers? Am I understanding the question correctly?
Correct.
Yeah, I think that is plausible. I think that is what's planned along Guilford College. That's obviously an engineering question, right? Aesthetically, I like those. I think they give privacy and kind of segregation between the properties. So I can't commit to anything today, but I certainly think that is a reasonable request that if it can be accommodated in a feasible manner, should absolutely be considered.
Okay. One other thing that stood out to me also was just in terms of the material that's going to be used. We've got other developments that are being set up with hardy board or things of that nature, and there's been a lot of focus in terms of the quality and caliber of what's being constructed. So, I'd like to hear a little more from you about that as far as what the thoughts are, I realize it's very preliminary at this point, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to better understand.
Well, actually, when you sign up to be on this podium, you kind of do get put on the spot. So,
Fair.
Yeah, so
Fair.
I welcome it. It's again, it's a fair question. So we're developers, we're not builders. I do think it's a fair question. I can't control that at this stage. I think that is something that can be discussed as we progress forward. What I will say is I would fully anticipate these being $400,000 homes, and some expectation of construction standards would be a reasonable request. Again, I think this is why we have a continuance, and we can discuss these further. These are exact questions that were brought up last week by some of your citizens who are quite well researched, and
Do their homework.
As we come up with more detail, we can provide more guidance on that.
I see, okay. I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so.
Any other questions from
I have a question. The way this looks, where would a guest park? There's no open spaces, there are no guest parking. There's really not any room to breathe for anybody. And I have some questions about the applicant's statement also. It's on my page 10, but it says, describe how the properties around your site are used and how the proposed project may impact the surrounding area. In other words, noise, traffic, light, impact on environment, or other unique features. And the response is, there are residential homes around this site, including attached townhomes. Well, on 3 sides, there are single-family homes.
Right.
So that's misleading in that statement. There's only one side, and that's in the back, and that is not in Jamestown. So that statement isn't fully correct.
Yes.
And then it continues, due to the landscape buffering we are proposing, and I think we had a discussion about that, we believe there will be minimal impact regarding noise, light, environment. I really don't know how there would be minimal impact with 99 units on less than 18 acres, and you have single-family housing on 3 sides. I really can't grasp that concept that in the statement here.
Yes, and Ms. Richmond, I'll say that I did not fill that application out, and had the applicant consulted with their attorney, they may have phrased things differently. So I think your characterization of some of those concerns is exactly accurate. So I think you really had 2 questions. The first was, where do they park, right? No 2 ways around it. It is of certain density where there's not a tremendous amount of open space. I think there's a couple of things that can be done with site design that could address that. I will say that it is a 2-car garage with a driveway in the front, and so if people are parking in their garages, it will accommodate more parking in their driveway. I'm certainly open to creating a parking area along the road nearby, maybe off of Road B, for example. If you're looking at the site plan, we have some open space there that we could accommodate. These are all engineering questions that I need feedback from you and feedback from the public to go and address those type of things, because I think that is a fair point, and that's what it's around.
Well, yes, the noise, light, and environment, I mean, there've got to be a lot of lights, there's got to be a lot of noise, and theoretically, if there are 99 units and 99 cars that go in and out all day, that is going to create noise, it's going to create light when those cars go out and face those houses, and traffic, the impact should be minimized due to the low number of units. I don't know who thought that up.
Yes, so that would be question B. So, with apologies, I think I addressed question A. As it relates to question B, there's no ways around it. Anytime a subdivision goes up in what used to be agricultural land, I guess this is kind of quasi-agricultural, traffic counts increase, noise levels increase. No two ways around it. And I'm sensitive to the fact that Chadwick Drive is relatively low density at this time. There will be an increase in traffic count and noise due to the new site that's approved, and I understand that's in Guilford County or Greensboro?
Greensboro.
Yes. Majority of the traffic will come in off of Road A on the site design, so we don't anticipate traffic coming down Chadwick as much as it turns into Chadwick and then immediately turns into the neighborhood. I don't agree with setting in the application that the impact will be minimal. There will be an impact, but I think it's manageable with proper planning, with berms that we've talked about, and trying to keep our connector close to Guilford College as it is going.
Well, I know you're here to answer questions, but I don't know how a berm is going to solve the noise from traffic. Because the traffic goes out there, and theoretically, you could have, if you have one car per unit, that's an increase of 99 cars, maybe twice a day if they work. And I don't know about, it sorting itself out for older adults, because they don't want to buy stuff with stairs.
Yeah, again, I think that's fair to say, and frankly, I think they're undercounting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, so there is existing traffic on Chadwick. This will increase traffic. There's ways around it. I'm not running from that. I'm not denying that. It will absolutely increase traffic. There is existing traffic going into the horse farm now. Probably 20 cars a day, something like that. It's not 200. But again, traffic will pick up in this neighborhood anyways. I'll just talk. But Ms. Richmond, I think those are fair concerns. We will try to address those in our site design. Respectfully, I do think a berm does help with noise because it blocks noise from crossing over if it's elevated relative to the site. It's not all that different from those concrete walls that you see on the highway, for example. So will it completely eliminate noise? Absolutely not.
Well, the traffic, would be a huge factor there for that many units.
Yes, absolutely, but my expectation, and I think DOT's expectation, is that traffic will make the right-hand turn off of Guilford College onto Chadwick, and then majority of it, probably 2/3, will immediately go into Road A. So when those cars egress back onto Guilford College, yes, they will turn onto Chadwick for approximately 100 feet before they turn back onto Guilford. Now, the remaining 1/3 that go down to Road C will travel majority of the length of Chadwick, and the amount of cars that are going to go down for that is relatively consistent with the new townhomes that are at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Well, 1/3 of 99 would be going down there, and
Yes.
possibly 200 if you have two drivers.
Absolutely, I think that's
Really, really dense. I don't see how it goes along with some of our principles in our comp plan, really,
Sure.
for quality of life.
sure,
that we
understood,
just read. I think I'm through for the moment.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a couple of, I got some, to piggyback on what John said, he talked about a berm along Hickory, the house is along Hickory.
Yes.
I mean, why wouldn't you put a berm around wherever they're housing, on the other side?
So along Chadwick.
Yes.
I can, but if I do, I'm going to remove some mature hardwoods. And so I think that's an open discussion. Those are.
Why couldn't you incorporate them into it?
You'll kill them with the berm. So
Yeah.
when you pile that topsoil up and you cover those roots up, we'll absolutely kill those trees.
No, I didn't say cover it up, I just said incorporate them, I didn't mean cover them up. I understand how a tree operates.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to imply that you didn't. If we can incorporate that, I'm happy to. We'd need to measure where the existing trees are and things like that, but I'm certainly open to that.
Okay, then my next question, all your utilities are gonna be underground?
Yes,
That's,
Yes.
that's no questions?
yes.
Okay, I just wanted to check to make sure. And then the third thing, when you designed this, you know, you got an awful lot of traffic going out on Chadwick, and you acknowledge that.
Yes.
We all acknowledge that. Did you talk to North Carolina Department of Transportation about putting it directly out into Guilford College?
Yes, and
Is that incorporated in here somewhere, that you can't do it that way?
the DOT, so the DOT requires a driveway permit connection
Yep.
to tie into any road.
And these are both DOT roads, right?
These are Guilford College, Hickory
And Chadwick.
Hollow, and Chadwick. DOT strongly advises to connect off Chadwick and to limit the number of connections on the Guilford College.
Strongly advises or doesn't allow?
They will not likely allow us to connect. I don't know that I have that in writing. We may have that. I did not attend the DOT meeting.
Yeah, I would like to have that in writing.
Sure, absolutely. I think we can get that from you.
'Cause then there's no choice.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Fair request.
Okay. And then the other question I have relates to the existing zoning that's there now, single-family residential, which I believe allows up to 4 an acre. So if you did it that way, you'd have 75 houses in here, if you could fit them. Why not attempt that, or at least look at what a plan like that would look like versus what you have here?
So we have looked at a plan that looks like that, and the dimensionality is not such that you would see anything near 75. Because if you
No,
could.
I understand that.
Yes, the dimensionality probably yields 40 lots on this, something like that. And
Which would probably be reasonable.
that, it may be, it's
sense.
probably not a feasible site from a development standpoint at those numbers.
Okay.
It's not feasible from the developer's point of view, but it might be feasible from for the quality of life of the people around there if it were 50 units or something like that.
I think that may be a fair statement, yes.
To keep it single-family
Yeah.
housing. Okay, the question about driving, there is that small driveway, from that goes on to Guilford College Road that business uses. So they can't make that into a road, or that can't be an exit.
I will get clarification and a definitive statement from DOT from you on that. Yes, absolutely.
And just to clarify that, the definitive statement would say you cannot do that,
That's correct.
or you still have the option of doing that? Because if you have the option, I would prefer you to use it.
I think they're going to tell us we cannot, but I don't have that statement in my possession.
that's what
and I will get that for
Yeah,
you.
that's fine, that's good.
Yes.
Regarding the number of units, how did they come to 99?
How do they come to 99? Maximize the layouts, and that's just where it landed.
And another question, you're allowed 6, and you're at 5.3 here, and that's because that's what will fit here?
That's what will fit here. If you look at I don't know if you have a plan that shows
This, yeah.
topography lines, but you can see the open area, the topography starts to get what I'll call more aggressive. And the layout as it is shown is largely consistent with maximum density that you can get based on the limitations of the topography and the landscape.
Well, we certainly want to take into account the wetlands and everything that's in the middle of it as far as that's concerned. I'm still thinking about the number of units, I guess.
Looking at the guiding principle number 11, which hasn't been mentioned, and people who know me figure I probably will come up with this eventually, so I'm going to just go ahead with that. The quality and health of the natural environment is as important to our community as the quality of the built environment. Protect and preserve mature trees. Do you have a specific plan to preserve mature trees? I guess I'm asking a question I know the answer to, because with all of those units, I don't see how you can protect anything other than what's required for the wetlands.
The plan did contemplate preserving the trees along Chadwick. We've got to interplay with the berm, as was talked about. The trees on the majority of the remainder of the site that would be in way of construction obviously have to come out. So if it's open, if you see open area and it's forested, that would stay. Otherwise, the trees would be removed, except along Chadwick, as has been discussed.
I guess I'm looking also at this from two different perspectives. One would be for the people who live around there.
Sure.
And it is single-family housing on three sides.
Sure.
So I really can't get beyond that. But if you look at it if I look at it another way, the people who would live in those 99 units don't have any open space. They don't have any parking. They don't have any mature trees. So I don't know how you have a quality of life, even for those people who would buy in there. It just seems very too dense for quality of life.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. There is some amount of open space. It is small, right, for the site as a whole. We don't disagree with that. We did provide sidewalks, which is mandated within your planning directives to allow active space. This is planned as a community that will be supportive of an older generation that will tend to take advantage of those sidewalks and be out and about. But Ms. Richmond, I again think that that's a fair comment.
Any other
I hope so.
questions?
You mentioned the width of the berm or perimeter. What about the height?
The height of the berm, it's subject to discussion. So I personally think it should be, you've got to take into consideration engineering concerns and how much soil you generate on your site, things like that, right? Like we can't commit to a 40-foot tall berm if you don't have that much soil, but to the extent the engineering will allow it, I think you want as large of a landscape berm as you can. That's been my preference on any site I've looked at.
And what would that be roughly?
It depend on the site conditions, but I prefer something that's as tall as I am so you can't see over it, right? Like that, from an aesthetic standpoint, that is what, to me, when you talk about a berm this tall doesn't really do anything, right? So if you've got the soil to generate one that has more to it, acknowledging the topography and things like that at the site, that's what you would like to do. That's a dirt balance issue that is part of that engineering discussion.
And in the distance in between the buildings where you have the multiple units of as many as 6 adjoining together,
Right.
what's the distance in between those buildings? It looks to be very minimal from what I can figure.
It is minimal. Building separation is 15 foot minimum, and that's what the ordinance allows, but it is currently drawn as 15 foot between them.
That's really tight.
Yes.
Yeah, I did
Yes.
have one other question. When you talked to the Department of Transportation, did they say anything about all the traffic having to make a right-hand turn? Because as I recall, is there a turn there on Chadwick?
Now, so you have to turn right off.
And then to get in there, if you're coming from that direction, like for instance, the grocery store, which everyone will go to,
Right.
they're gonna have to make the U-turn at Hickory.
Yes, that is correct.
They didn't give you any guidance on that? That's an awful lot of U-turns and
It is, and the alternative to that is if that median's not there, it's an awful lot of left-hand turns too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good either.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good either way. That's
And the light's worse.
yes, yes, that's right.
From my perspective. Just, they didn't give you any guidance on that at all,
I-
or any commentary, I guess.
They are comfortable with the density of the site, the two connections, yes, absolutely. They were comfortable with Guilford College as it is right now. They did not request any changes to it.
Okay. Can you get that in writing too?
I absolutely can, yes,
Thank you.
yes.
So the traffic then is going on Chadwick, 200, maybe 200 cars twice a day, maybe. And then it's going to go out on Guilford College Road, and all of those are going to be waiting. That's going to be a nightmare for the people who travel that road. It's going to be
Sure. Sure, so, again, fair point. We do anticipate that this community will be supportive of an older generation. They're not going to tend to leave to go to work or take kids to school like you would a more traditional neighborhood. That's one mitigating factor. I don't think it completely minimizes the point that you just made.
Yeah, no, the people who are, when I want to go up to Lowe's, I'm going to be hitting all of this stuff. Everybody in here who wants to go in that direction, or when they're coming back, because it's going to have to slow down to turn around. It's just too much traffic.
Sure.
Have there been any other plans drawn up with fewer units?
There have, and Mr. Scholl asked about that earlier. It was looked at as a single-family site with existing zoning. Numbers they're just not feasible from a development standpoint.
I was thinking in terms of from a townhome perspective versus if it was conventional residential homes, if there was a lighter impact footprint that might have been drawn up, was what I was thinking.
Sure, so Mr. Capes, for example, as a hypothetical, remove everything to the east of Road C, right? And that would reduce the overall density from 99 to 65, right? I'm just making numbers up. The site won't be viable in that circumstance. It just won't. The construction cost on these are about $1,000 per foot of linear road.
Right.
So every foot you build is $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. You've got to extend the utilities, which water's got to come into this site. You've got to extend sewer. You've got to make these connections. If the density gets appreciably decreased, the site's just not viable from a development standpoint. It's just not.
Did they come up with, by any chance, the number of units that would be viable in terms of what the cutoff would be?
I could run those calculations. I could get back to you.
I'd be interested in knowing.
Yeah.
Because just for the sake of discussion, obviously, we're still in the early phases here, but one of the things that's going to play in is whether or not there are variations on this that might be more agreeable to the people that live around it and just in general, so.
Yeah, I think that's a fair request as well. So it can be looked at, kind of crunch the numbers on our end, see what comes out of it, and you go from there.
Thank you.
Yes?
Are these all two-story units?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be inconsistent then with thinking that you would get 99 elderly or aging-in-place people. Most of them want a single level, not a two-story.
Yes, so to be clear, I don't think this will be all elderly. I think there will be a master downstairs concept. What percentage of that is elderly? I don't know. A third, maybe. We're making those numbers up at that point. The key is that it is targeted to be able to support a wide range of ages, including our more senior folks.
Yeah, so we probably will have the normal traffic of people with children going to school, et cetera, all trying to get out at the same time. And it is going to not be an easy task with the plan given.
Absolutely. So if 2/3 of them are, non-elderly, I'm not sure the right term to use there, then you're looking at basically 65 residents going to school and going to work and whatnot. Your comment is appropriate, and I appreciate it.
Well, to help you out a little bit, one word that you can use is vintage.
Vintage, yes, yes.
No, I'm not vintage either.
Any other questions from the committee?
Not at this point. Nope. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll now open the public hearing portion of this meeting. Those of you who have signed up to speak, we will be glad to hear from you, and ask that you state your name and address when you come to the microphone, and that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And we've got a timekeeper. It's not me.
You don't have to sign up to speak for the public hearing, so if you'll just come forward and state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, who wants to be first?
Where do you have it? You have it.
Hope the clock hasn't started. Good evening. My name's James Bowman. I live with my wife Jill at 201 Chadwick Drive in Jamestown. Our home is situated directly across the street from the Jamestown Equestrian Center. We have resided there for over 32 years. It's where we raised our 2 children. We moved here because of the unique charm and character of Jamestown. My initial favorable impression of Jamestown was during my travels from High Point to Greensboro, traveling through the town of Jamestown and then through Guilford College Road. The road was lined with beautiful cedar trees at one time. To this day, I still enjoy my travels down Guilford College Road. There are many reasons you should vote to deny this request. At the top of my list is simply that it does not conform with the current homes and aesthetics of the surrounding properties. It does not conform to the envisioned Jamestown Comprehensive Plan. I read the Planning Department's packet, and frankly, I was surprised and disappointed when I read that the staff planners found the plan is, quote, appropriate and consistent with the envisioned Jamestown Comprehensive Plan. I've read the comprehensive plan, and it's anything but consistent with the plan. The comprehensive plan characterizes our area as suburban residential, which the plan opines where developed land is included in this application, it is intended to be developed in a manner similar to adjacent suburban residential development. This plan is not similar to the current residential development. I was troubled by the planner's omissions of relevant guidance in the comprehensive plan. Specifically, the planners quote a portion of guiding principle number 1, but they left out the portion that states, avoid the introduction of generic and monotonous developments that detract from Jamestown's unique sense of place and small town charm. The planners quote a portion of guiding principle number 2, but they left out the portion that states, protect surrounding neighborhoods from encroachment by adjacent incompatible use. The proposed plan is absolutely incompatible with our surrounding neighborhoods. The comprehensive plan is an important document, and I applaud those who developed it. The developer's plan calls for 99 homes with all access and egress from Chadwick Drive. Chadwick is not compatible with that amount of traffic increase the residents would bring. Specifically, we've just talked about it, but Chadwick is a dead-end road with one way in and one way out. All existing traffic on the Guilford College Road, and if you want to travel south, you must turn right, followed by a U-turn. Navigating this presently takes several minutes, and I hate to imagine adding another 200 cars. I realize the farm will eventually be developed, but hopefully it will be something compatible with our community. One couple more sentences.
Go ahead.
Jamestown is presently going through major changes with the current development of the Johnson property, and I believe it would be in the best interest of Jamestown to avoid approving any rezoning that would further impact the Guilford College Road corner until you are able to assess what impact the Johnson property development has for the town of Jamestown. Please follow the comprehensive plan and reject this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Richard Bowling. I'm reading this for my daughter and son-in-law, Jan and Scott Blue, who are Hickory Holler residents. Jan says, "We purchased our house on Hickory Holler 3 years ago, yet we are not new to the area as we both were born and raised in High Point. When my husband retired from the Navy, we began looking at returning to North Carolina and our families. We were so excited to find a house that gave us a little bit of acreage with a rural feel. Adding to that was the beauty and serenity of the horse farm behind us. We know North Carolina has attracted new business growth that requires additional housing. Was there any thought to sell the horse farm to someone wanting one of their own who is looking for expansion, or to someone who may want to build a few single-family homes on large lots, leaving plenty of green space, one of the important aspects outlined throughout the Envision Jamestown Comprehensive Plan dated October 19th, 2021. Please refer to page 34 under the suburban residential paragraph, last sentence, which says, where undeveloped land is included in this classification, it is intended to be developed in a manner similar to adjacent suburban residential development. The first frustrating part of this is we are not considered Jamestown residents, yet we will be most affected by this and the Johnson Farm development. It is already difficult for Hickory Hollow residents to turn left onto Guilford College Road. I'm going to skip a part that she put. If you look at the current development plan and its high density, you have to ask yourself, well, where will all these people go when they come outside? As there is no park area and little green space as required in Jamestown's comprehensive plan. What you currently see on this project serves only as buffers and stormwater mitigation. In the informational meeting sponsored by Brad Coe and Justin Nightfong, Justin himself stated, "I wouldn't want to see this go up in my backyard either." We were also told that they don't know who the builder is and cannot give us any details as to the design. You can imagine our frustration. Another short phrase, since this current development plan at the horse farm is completely against Jamestown's own comprehensive plan from 2021, we're asking that you reject this rezoning request to maintain the landscape of a single-family residential area. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you.
My name is Keith Wagner, and I live at 102 McFarland Court. I'm here to speak against the request for rezoning at the Jamestown Equestrian Center. Fortunately, the town of Jamestown leadership has had the foresight to address issues such as ours with the most recent land use study in the EJCP that was adopted in October of 21. And fortunately, 3 members of that current planning board were also on the EJCP steering committee: Ed Stafford, Pam Burgess, and Jane Payne. Guiding principle number 4 discusses Jamestown's commitment to the future walkability of our neighborhoods and town. As to the request to make the only access for any development to be on Chadwick when the current facility runs a thriving business off Guilford College with almost all traffic accessing the farm from that main entrance puts a heavy burden on the residents of Chadwick and McFarland. Chadwick is an undersized, barely maintained dead-end road. Currently, the residents use Chadwick Drive as our sidewalk for walking dogs, children, or ourselves up and down the road for exercise and enjoyment. If an additional 99 homes with up to 2 cars per home and an average of 6 trips a day, it would make it unsafe to walk in our neighborhood. How would this rezoning and design be considered proactive in making our neighborhood more walkable and bicycle friendly? I had a conversation with an NCDOT representative today, Mr. Bobby Norris, a district engineer, and he stated the only reason the entrance and exit to that subdivision were off Chadwick and not Guilford College was the request was at the request of the land developer. He would be fine with either method of entry or exit. I understand where the town would want to ensure that we do not have a repeat of what is happening on McKay Road with the Pulte development, and the repeated talk from the developer about a 50-foot buffer along Guilford College Road, but equally aesthetic entrances could be obtained following the example of Whittington Hall or Stone Gables. In fact, Stone Gables had access to a side street, but was granted access to Guilford College Road, unlike the plan proposed today. The Ragsdale's time on the farm is soon to be over, and now it is your responsibility to ensure the future development matches the town of Jamestown's vision. I encourage you to decline this request and send the plan back to the land developers and ask them to submit a plan that matches the existing zoning, with planned green space and parks as are set forth in your land use guiding principles. In addition, make certain any access to this property does not infringe on the existing neighborhoods by limiting the enjoyment and safety of our properties by increasing the traffic on Chadwick by a factor of 15. Jamestown has a plan. Follow the plan.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Messer, and I live at 205 Chadwick Drive, and I'm originally from the rural mountains up in the Appalachian area of Northeast Tennessee. When I found out that my family would be moving to the Triad in North Carolina, I was concerned because this small country girl didn't want to live in the city. When we found the property on Chadwick Drive, right across from a horse farm at a dead-end road, I was delighted. This was going to be a wonderful place to raise my new family growing. We have 2 small toddlers. When we found out about the new development at the end of Chadwick, we were devastated. The original plans, if I remember correctly, were Greensboro was saying that 60 homes or so could go in, and at the conclusion of that, 20 homes were going to go in, and I think Pulte is now the one developing it. Due to the changes that have already taken place, walking up and down Chadwick has already been hard for my family. There have been multiple times when our access has been blocked by construction that's gone on, or we've had some medical emergencies where our driveway has been blocked as well. So we're concerned about our safety with being able to get in and out of the road driving, let alone with my 2 small toddlers with no sidewalks to be able to walk on. We do not feel that putting in this many townhomes is consistent with the single-family residents on any of the surrounding areas. The destruction of the well-established forests, not just from the greenery aspect, but from the thriving wildlife that lives there, the hawks. It's a forest, and my kids have long enjoyed seeing all of the horses there. We understand that they have concerns, but those aren't necessarily the concerns of the neighborhood that is going to be staying. And so we just ask that you all would please decline this request to rezone so that it stays consistent with our current community that we're all very fond of in Jamestown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane Hubbard, and I live on Hickory Hollow Road for the last 3 years. We moved here from Western North Carolina to help our son and daughter-in-law raise their 3 children, one who was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder as an infant. We were thrilled to find our home on Hickory Hollow Road because it's only 1.5 miles to their home in Jamesford Meadows. The peace derived from the rural atmosphere, birds, the horses, coming to the fence in the backyard, and other wildlife, as well as the safety on our street, is wonderful. But since the development at the end of Chadwick began, that peace has been interrupted and will continue to be affected as the development proceeds. The large home at the end of Hickory Hollow Road has completely changed the water drainage coming from there and the farm. I can provide photos of the street and my yard during storms. The temperature change between my home and anywhere beyond Guilford College Road is about 5 degrees. My concern is that removing trees on the farm, covering the fields with roads, sidewalks, houses, and clear-cutting trees as was done in the development in progress on Chadwick, will have a negative impact on the temperature affecting cooling, while a negative impact on wildlife living in the shrinking forest and the invisible ecosystem that is supported by trees, grasses, and the natural environment. What impact might this have on our wells? The developers we spoke to on Thursday night both agreed that they would not like to have this happen in their backyard, citing that they were privileged to live where this won't happen. I have felt privileged to live on Hickory Hollow Road and do not want this type of development, which does not complement the existing neighborhoods in my backyard either. Many of the issues I have brought to light are covered in the Envision Jamestown Guiding Principles, including green space, protecting forests, including residents of the EJT in matters affecting their neighborhoods, and ensure development is compatible with its surroundings. I oppose the rezoning of the property on Guilford College Road, known as the Horse Farm, to multifamily development. I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
My name is Gideon Messer, and I live at 205 Chadwick Drive. My wife already spoke to several of our concerns about this proposed development. But to put it, I'm an engineer. There's, when I looked over what is proposed here, the mismatch between the overall plan from Jamestown and the proposed development is, it made me very confused, to be honest, just to see how the mismatch. And I look around at the forest where I live and at the wildlife and the few neighbors that I have who are all very nice. We all enjoy walking up and down the road, as others have mentioned, and because there is no sidewalk. And the impact of this the proposed development would cause increased risk to me and my family, because the proposed development the proposed plan that I saw included no additional sidewalk on Chadwick Drive. So Jamestown is supposed to be a walkable city. And while I don't live in the city of Jamestown, this development would increase the traffic on my primary pedestrian access to the sidewalk network in Jamestown without providing me any additional pedestrian access to said network along the sidewalk. I would have to deal with increased traffic while trying to cross Guilford College Road, which, to be honest, is a bit of a pain when I take my bicycle down Chadwick Drive and across onto the wonderful sidewalk that I enjoy riding and walking, but I have trouble getting over to the sidewalk to come to Jamestown. And I would see the proposed demographic having some issues getting across Guilford College. That's not to say that they couldn't, but I mean, I have trouble lugging my kids across when I'm trying to tow them on my bicycle. You know, the aesthetic function just doesn't seem to match. And so I would propose that you reject this proposal, development.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nathaniel Woody. I live on 6308 Hickory Hollow Road. I'm at the end. You can no longer see the plan. I wish we could, because we were given that a week ago. That right there was dropped on us to digest. And we're still trying to digest that. And it's pretty hard to swallow. So Ms. Richmond pointed on some pretty significant factors that we've all asked and all got no questions on last Thursday when we had our meeting. That right there, high density, sandwiched in between single family. That affects everyone in this room, and it matters to us. It matters to this town. It matters to the two kids that I'm raising. Everything. There's no amenities. Where are these people going to walk? Where are these people going to play? You already mentioned parking. We've already highlighted the traffic. We've got one berm. I know it was mentioned the other sides. How about us? Can we get a berm? And you get an answer of, it's not feasible. Us not feasible is not on us. They plan this. They can make amenities to make it feasible. I own the pond down below, right there, 6308, where all that's going to flow into my pond, which is about a third of my property. There's a safety issue there. How will that affect my property? How will that affect the surrounding, everything about it? So, again, that picture, that 99 unit development is just hard to swallow. Everyone's mentioned the high density. I'll highlight the safety aspect of it over on Chadwick, because there is no plan for a sidewalk along Chadwick right there. And then to reinforce again, coming out of Mr. Nifong's mouth last Thursday, I would not want this in my own backyard. So thank you for your consideration, guys. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a vintage property owner on Hickory Hollow Road.
Have your name and address, please, sir.
Charles Hubbard, 6312 Hickory Hollow Road. I purchased this property about 2.5 years ago, part of the decision to purchase based on the beauty of our community, including our backyard. Our property is adjacent to the horse farm. I object to the rezoning request for the following reasons. A multi-unit development on the farm with 99 proposed units is reckless and irresponsible. The equivalent of putting a high-rise building in the middle of the woods. It does not fit with your existing community as planned and referenced by the Jamestown Comprehensive Plan, and that's been mentioned many times tonight. Please note the future use of suburban residential as noted in the comprehensive Jamestown plan. Multi-family units are not included in that plan. And you guys spent a lot of money for that plan. I have concerns about water runoff from the site, and we really do have trouble with water on our property that runs off the horse farm. I have serious doubts that a 99-unit complex can be handled by Chadwick Road. The average traffic would be about 300 car trips a day. A traffic light would be required at the very least, and the median strip would have to be opened. There are no sidewalks along Chadwick Road, which is dangerous for children and adults. What impact would this have on my well water? What impact will this have on my property value? Now, I'm open to living with single-family units, but this new development would harm Jamestown and its residents. Thank you for listening to me.
Gentlemen, I'm Maxine Fisher of 203 Chadwick Drive. My husband and I, David Fisher, built our home on this property because of the current zoning property in this area, which was and is now single-family, low-density. This area is rural in nature and currently under the jurisdiction of Jamestown, the ETJ. When we and the other property owners in this immediate area built our homes, it was with the understanding that the zoning of the property all around us would ensure us of the setting we desired. We now find a developer is requesting to have a multifamily, high-density development project that is not in keeping with the surrounding area inserted into the midst of our tranquil setting. And this is very inconsistent with the Jamestown Comprehensive Plan. To the property that's located on Guilford College Road as the only entrances. In addition, the developer is requesting access to our very short State Ribbon Road as the main access to the property, which is located on Guilford College Road as the only entrances to his proposed development, which we strongly object to, as this would entirely change the environment on Chadwick Drive. The property requesting the change in zoning already has access to the Guilford College Road, which has served as the main entrance to the Presbyterian facility. They've had a lot of traffic in and out of that facility, horse trailers, etc., all this time. I don't understand why that wouldn't be considered a major access. We feel that we developed according to the required zoning, and we have no objections to a developer who will develop this land in accordance with the zoning, current zoning, and in keeping with the neighborhood surrounding it, and not according to Greensboro standards. As taxpayers of Guilford County and residents of Jamestown, we rely on our planning board to assure us of the quality of life we have come to appreciate and to protect us from developers who would come in and develop to standards not in keeping with our surrounding environment. We respectfully request that the Jamestown Planning Board not recommend this rezoning request and grant us, the people who live in this area, the continued present zoning. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing our comments. I appreciate your work. I appreciate your all volunteers, and it's not goes unnoticed. My name is Terry Cullen at 101 Chadwick Drive. Obviously, I'm across the street from the proposed horse farm unit. Took my map down again. I'm requesting a denial of rezoning the Jamestown Requestion Center on Guilford. We claim the proposed request is not appropriate and will be damaging for the surrounding single-family residents. You've heard this a dozen times already. We're adjacent property owners, and rezoning the property to a high-density use inside the residential neighborhood is inconsistent with the surrounding single-family property. You've heard this a dozen times already. Further, the proposed request is not compatible with the Jamestown Comprehensive Plan. I had to do some quick history and homework to learn, read it, figure it out. You guys did an amazing job putting it together. The guiding principle of goal number one, the objective design standards, are to be standards that achieve the aesthetic and superior construction quality that is expected to the community to enhance the value and the quality of life. I assure you that this density in amongst all of our single-family homes does not enhance our quality of life. We talked a little bit about the new vehicular traffic, and we've made a point that using traffic off of Chadwick Drive, common sense tells you this isn't going to work. You're talking about 140 to 200 vehicles that must use traffic for a traffic pattern of Chadwick Drive to enter and exit onto Guilford Road. Just coming over here tonight, James and I sat for at least a minute waiting for passers-by of traffic, waiting for the traffic to pass by. And then he scared the heck out of me by pulling out quickly in front of a car that was coming from the other direction. So imagine what it's going to be with 200 more cars. The Jamestown Envision Guide is a comprehensive plan and is designed to guide all aspects of future growth and development. This proposal is not consistent with that comprehensive plan. We oppose the zoning, and I wanted to share one brief story with you. We oppose the zoning for the Pulte property, and we oppose Greensboro's zoning of it. I want to assure you that we do not like that type of property, and it doesn't fit where we live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Janina Austin. I live at 403 Thornwood Road in Cedarwood, which is at the intersection of Mackey and Guilford College Road. I grew up here and moved away for a while and was very excited to move back. My extended family also lives in Cedarwood. We're all in love with the horse farm, obviously. It's heartbreaking to see it go. You can hear the emotion in the speakers' voices tonight, and I'm sure that many of you share that emotion. I would love to see this Jamestown Planning Board take action in a different way than Greensboro. We're all, many of us, still living with the reverberations of what happened in the process when D.R. Horton began their process to develop the Johnson Farm. It felt as though we were listened to, but not really heard, and then it seemed like the town folded and did what D.R. Horton wanted. I know that that project has not in any way reached completion, but many of us feel like when is Jamestown going to stand up for us? I'm obviously in an ETJ jurisdiction, but this will affect me greatly, as people have noted tonight. I'm not sure exactly who thinks that senior citizens are going to live in a two-story townhome. We've talked about that, but I'm a realtor, and I have those clients every day, and they don't want that at all. They want single level, whether it be a townhome or a ranch-style home. And I'm actually going to go further and say I'm only 49, and that's what I want, because my needs are not what they used to be, and, you know, lots of people deal with that. I think when we come to a developer saying that it's not feasible to do less than 99 units, what they're really saying is we need our profit. Because I'm not sure where they get $1,000 per foot of development cost when I have clients buying custom homes in Oak Ridge at $300 per square foot. I guess I'm missing something. I think what I'm missing is that this is what is beneficial to them, and I really, really encourage you to stand up for what's beneficial to us who surround this proposed development. I don't understand from Mr. Johnson how this development is in any way technically or otherwise consistent with the comprehensive plan. I think it's disingenuous to say that. I'd really love to hear the reasoning, because I don't see that, and neither does any of the other people who've talked tonight. I also will just share that as a mom to 2 young kids, I make about 4 trips per day to and from my house. Anybody who has kids in after-school programs and also has to work will sympathize with that. That means leaving and coming back, so 8 single-way trips per day. I don't think it's appropriate to guess that people are going to leave their house only once per day or twice. I really appreciate the fact that you all dedicate your time, and I encourage you to think very carefully about doing your best for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric James, and I live on 6314 Hickory Hollow Road. I've been there since '96. I grew up on a farm, and it's right there where the Walmart area is. They came in and bought us all out, so we didn't have a choice but to move. So we moved down here to Jamestown. I moved with my dad and my mom. I've lost my dad since then. My mom's 94. so I take care of her and my sister as well. And I've loved this area because it reminds us, when we moved there, of the farmland we had when they took it away from us, especially with the horses. We had horses and cows and all that, and we moved there to remind us of where we came from. And so now I'm opposing this because it's just not the thing to do in that area. It's too many units, if you ask me, and I don't see where the kids will have any room to play. I watch my nephew and them, the bus stops there, and so many cars I've seen there at that intersection right there at Hickory Hollow. The cars run the bus light because they don't know to stop, you know. I've seen that happen. I've seen accidents happen there. I can sit in my yard and listen. I'll hear the screech, and before you know it, it's bang. So I'm opposing it because 3-4 weeks ago, I got hit in that same area. Guy T-boned me, said he didn't see me, and totaled my car. So now I'm left with a pinched nerve in my back, and I'm doing therapy 3 days a week. So I can imagine if the traffic got any bigger than that, what it would be. So that's why I'm opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina Reeser, 2621 Glass House Road. These are mostly comments. By ordinance, the Technical Review Committee serves as the Watershed Review Board. Who in the TRC, Planning Director, Public Service Director, Town Manager, or Planning Board Chair, is qualified to make these decisions? I thought that was the responsibility of NCDEQ and the Army Corps of Engineers, neither of which have been consulted or have been present for any TRC meetings, including the D.R. Horton Kinsley development. The rezoning application for tonight's public hearing lists the property as located in the Randleman Lake General Watershed, which is incorrect. As with Johnson Farm and per Guilford County GIS, they are all part of the critical and protected Class 4 Lower Randleman Watershed, which has its own North Carolina general statute and dictates low-density development, something completely ignored by the town of Jamestown and this planning board. The LDO discourages the use of cul-de-sacs, yet the development has 2 cul-de-sacs, which dead end in opposite sides of the neighborhood. The proposed development exits on Chadwick Drive. How does the development of 99 houses exiting onto a side street versus an actual main road? How does this development meet NC Fire Code? There is only one exit in and out of the neighborhood, Chadwick Drive. The town of Jamestown has rejected the Diamondback development for much less, yet in Jamestown there seems to be no rules when it comes to development. This public hearing was not properly advertised by the town of Jamestown. Why does the town of Jamestown continually talk about transparency and accountability, yet fails to publish public hearing documents timely for the public to review? In this case, the documents were posted less than 5 days before this hearing. By law, documents must be publicly available when public notices are sent. I requested this information 10 business days before the public hearing and was denied access to these documents until 5 business days before this public hearing, when public hearing documents were posted on the town website. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else wish to speak? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to declare this portion of our meeting concluded. And at this time, I would call for a motion to continue this public hearing until April 8th.
Motion to continue this hearing until April 8th.
Vice Chairman, I would like to request that we leave the public hearing open.
I'm sorry?
I said I would like to request that we leave the public hearing open for
I'm
the
sorry.
continuation. That's fine.
Continue the public hearing, but keep it open so that we don't have to advertise again.
That's right.
So let's try this then. I make a motion that we continue the public hearing, but we also want to continue this into the April 8th meeting for further discussion and consideration.
Motion's made. Is there a second? Second. Is this a roll call?
No, it's regular.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries.
So the hearing will be continued to the April 8th Planning Board meeting at 6 PM in this room without further advertisement.
I believe we're at the recess point, aren't we?
Almost. I do have one thing I'd like to say. Folks, everybody who's here, I do encourage you, please stay involved, keep coming. The next meeting will happen, and even if we don't advertise it, we still want you here. So this is not closed out by any stretch. Obviously, there are a lot of people concerned, and we hear you. It's just a matter of, obviously, you need more time, and we understand that. So please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Capes. Thank you, folks, for being here. You can stay further. There's one more item on our agenda, but we're going to take a 10-minute recess and reconvene for that.
No.
We don't have to leave.
No.
You can stay if you want, you just can't vote.
are you really? The extraterritorial jurisdiction members have been excused.
I'm going.
Zoom our meeting. The ETJ members have been excused, and we'll proceed to the second item on the agenda. And I assume, Matt, you're going to explain that to us?
Yes, and for those who are just joining us, Anna is out sick this evening. We do hope she feels better soon. Second case is case number 2024-02. Location is an address at 100 near Lennox Drive. It's parcel number 160-267. That's for a 1.7 acre portion of the 4.56 larger parent parcel. Proposed rezoning from residential Main Street transitional to conditional zoning residential Main Street transitional. Just adding the conditions to that same zoning district. The conditions which are listed below, maximum number of units will be 24. All units would be one-bedroom units. Building height would be limited to 3 stories exclusive of the architectural roofline features. Maximum number of buildings shall be limited to 2. Both new buildings would be placed on the existing Phase 2 building pad locations, which have been there for years. And then Phase 2 shall maintain its own separate recycling and dumpster areas for solid waste. Here's an overview of the property. As you can see, the area that's in blue is the area that is in question this evening. The area that is in red is the remaining portion of the parent parcel, which houses the Lennox Square condominiums. As I said, the current use is 2 existing condominium buildings, 12 units each. There are 2 empty building pads, which were slated for construction many years ago, but did not actually come to fruition. It's bordered to the north by commercial Main Street transitional, to the south by industrial and single-family residential, to the east by the Main Street zoning district, it is vacant, and to the west by the commercial Main Street transitional and industrial properties. I believe these are supposed to be, this little typo there, these are both supposed to be 740.52 square feet of required open space and tree conservation area. The streets included here are Lennox Drive, which is private, and West Main Street, which is owned and operated by NCDOT. The property was rezoned in November of 2004. It was rezoned to R9 with a special use permit. I believe that was to allow the condominiums to be constructed. And in July of 2009, that was changed to residential Main Street transitional as a result of the adoption of our new LDO. The applicant is requesting RMST conditional district, and RMST is defined as following. It would provide for primarily infill residential development in the existing residential areas surrounding the Main Street Periphery District and its logical extensions. The intent of the district is to allow for a gradual transformation of existing low-density single-family development to high-quality medium-density residential development, as a higher-density residential development is needed to support the growing town center. Higher-density residential development allows a greater number of households to walk or bike to the town center, thus reducing the parking demand in downtown and providing environmental and health benefits. Allowed building and lot types in this district are the detached house, attached house, and civic building. Streets should be interconnected, with streets and sidewalks providing connections from Jamestown's downtown to our single-family residential districts, and a range of housing types is encouraged. I did cover the conditions earlier. Those haven't changed. In our future land use map, the West Main Street future land use classification is applied to the majority of land along West Main Street from the town center to the town's western border with High Point from Ragsdale Road to Penny Road. Land use classification is intended to accommodate a wide variety of low to moderate intensity uses, including offices, civic uses, attached residential development, and small format retail stores along traditionally mixed use corridor. With the majority of the parcels in the area also located in our National Register Historic District, new development would be sensitive to the rich historic context of the area and utilize development styles that blend well with the unique character of the West Main Street corridor. That's primarily west of the river. Again, our comprehensive plan guiding principles, as we discussed before, that apply to this particular development are guiding principle number 1, that facilitate high quality growth that's compatible with our traditional development patterns and innovative in how it meets the needs of our diverse and dynamic community. Guiding principle number 2, the strength of the community is directly tied to the long-term success of the neighborhoods. We'll work diligently to promote and maintain the quality of life and aesthetic standards that our residents expect in Jamestown. Guiding principle number 10, it's welcoming and an inclusive community that values the benefits of diversity in all aspects of the town and its residents. Those are similar to the ones that you heard before. So our decision before the board this evening, and if I missed that, apologies. The decision is whether or not this conditional zoning residential Main Street transitional zoning district is an appropriate zoning district to apply in this situation. Is the request consistent with the comprehensive plan? And TRC has met and reviewed the request, and that we feel that it is consistent with our comprehensive plan. Do you have any specific questions for staff at this time?
Anyone? No, sir.
Okay. At this time, I believe the applicant is being represented by Amanda Hodiern with Isaacson Sheridan, and so I'm going to invite her up to speak. And I'm actually got I'll reload her PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening, Amanda.
Nice to see you all again. Amanda Hodiern. My offices are at 804 Green Valley Road in Greensboro, Suite 200. And we do have the slide deck here, but I've also got some hard copies if anybody would prefer it.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Quick point of order. I noticed we lost a few. Are we good procedurally if we're heard tonight to move on? Since we've lost a few members, do we have enough to, okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you. Understood. Okay. All right. So as Mr. Johnson has explained, this is a case for Lenox Square. We'll look at it closely in a minute. But essentially, we're referring to this as Phase 2. I imagine you are familiar with the property, having been in Jamestown since 2004, I believe, is when it was originally approved. And I imagine you visited it in preparation for tonight, and you noticed a half-finished project. So that's what brings us here this evening. If we could go to the first slide, please. So the nature of this request, it's 1.7 acres of the larger parcel that was originally planned to be developed as Lenox Square. So that will be subdivided. There's an exhibit in your package that we submitted with the application that contemplates how that would work so that we could meet the development standards for this project on our own side of the line, so to speak. The request is to rezone to the exact same district that we already are. We're staying with that residential Main Street transitional, and we're going to add the conditions that you've heard about tonight and that we'll talk about, but the district itself will not change. And this rezoning is necessary to complete the Phase 2 of this project. as was envisioned and planned a long time ago. As you can tell by the way the site's laid out, by the building pads that have been there forever. It was always intended to be square, as the name implies, and have 4 buildings. That didn't happen immediately. The original owners and developers are now conveying this property to my client, Berkeley Communities. I have Mr. Sterling Kelly with me here tonight. Berkeley is a very well-renowned and experienced multifamily owner and operator of many communities, one of which is here in Jamestown. They are the owner and operator of Courtyard Commons just across the street. So they know the area, they thrive in it, and so they saw this opportunity to come in, finish out Lenox Square, and have another good opportunity and good property here in Jamestown. So they're excited about that, excited to have the opportunity to put more of a footprint in Jamestown. So phase 2 is that's why we refer to it that way. Originally contemplated to be 2 more buildings of 12 units each, and that's exactly what we want to do. It's obviously before my time, but my understanding is that when the new LDO came along in 2009 and replaced the old R9 zoning, that changed, and the development standards, that changed it such that the density was no longer allowed at 24 more units here. So that, of course, didn't matter while it wasn't being built anyway, but now that somebody does want to build it, we're here to see if we can't clean that up and get the zoning to match those numbers again so that we can construct those buildings. So the request seeks to add just 10.4 units to what would currently be allowed under the existing application of the RMST zoning district. So that is the net increase that's being requested. If we could go to the next slide, please. These are the proposed conditions that we've submitted with this request. The maximum number of units shall be limited to 24. As you've heard, that'd be 12 in each building. And all of these units would be 1-bedroom units. The current buildings have 2-bedroom units. These would all be 1-bedroom. Building height would be limited to 3 stories. Apologies for my typo there. And that would match and be consistent with the existing Lenox Square, of course. And that would exclude architectural roofline features. You've noticed the building there now has some nice articulation on the roofline. These would have something similar. So when we say 3 stories, we mean living space. Maximum number of buildings would be limited to 2. Both the new buildings would be placed in the same location as the existing pad, so it really would build out as originally contemplated. Just a little terminology specificity here. Those pads are going to come up. They're old. They've been there too long. But the slab locations won't change. So it'll be, it's been planned and laid out in a certain way. So that's how we're going to continue to utilize it. And the phase 2 portion shall maintain its own separate dumpster and recycling areas. That was important with the existing residents at Lenox Square, so just wanted to carry that forward in conditions to keep that commitment front and center. If we could go to the next slide, please. This is just to get you quickly oriented as we start to talk about the zoning context and the comprehensive plan guidance. You see the red dot, that's our subject property, and you see it really sits in close proximity to the downtown. West Main Street, as you've heard, your comprehensive plan places, and the zoning district itself, places a lot of emphasis on, supporting the downtown with businesses and residents that can come in and utilize it, can walk to it, and can be a thriving part of everything you want going on in a successful downtown. So we think this project fits right into that vision, and you can see that it certainly does geographically. If we could go to the next slide, please. So since this is finishing out an existing project, I wanted to take a look at that. So the 2 photos at the top, the top left is as you are coming into downtown from west to east, and you come upon the site, you see it's heavily landscaped, it's got nice signage, and you really don't see it at all other than that. And so the next photograph to the right there, also on the top, is looking down that long private entrance road, Lenox Drive. And you can, if you can probably see it better on your hard copy, the roof line is just to the back of that road. If we could go back a slide, sorry, thanks. And then the bottom larger picture is just as we come up sort of to the top of that road, and the development opens out to the circular square formation that you see here. And you notice, of course, that the other side is unbuilt. So if we could go to the next slide now, there you go. That's what phase 2 currently looks like. But what you do notice here is we've got a lot of nice things already going on that you don't usually get the benefit of seeing when you think about development. You know, this is not a greenfield. We don't have to imagine this is very purely infill. So what we already see here is the infrastructure of the curb, the gutter where the parking will be. It's already sufficient parking. That'll just be striped out and utilized as always planned. And what I really wanted to look at here was the nice mature vegetation that surrounds the perimeter. That's all in place. Part of it looks old and mature, it has been retained, and part of it is newly planted. A lot of those, they look like Leland cypress to me, were clearly intentionally planted here. They've grown up beautifully, and they'll stay there and do what they've been intended to do. So if we could go to the next slide, please. This is your existing zoning. Just to zoom in of your zoning map, you see the red star there on the sort of aquamarine zoning map. So again, that color won't change because we're sticking with the residential transitional, Main Street transitional, excuse me. We're just adding these different set of conditions, and what I wanted to look at here was really the quilt, the framework that you see of a lot of different zoning districts, as you would expect in this downtown location, where we've got a lot of industrial behind us, we've got commercial on the West Main Street corridor, you've got your purple downtown area, and this just sits right in the middle of it, residential across the street. So again, I think this fits nicely into the thriving framework of the downtown that you've got going on and that continues to grow here. Going to the next slide, you of course have your nice new Envision Jamestown comprehensive plan, so that's an important factor that we always want to look at. And we were pleased to receive staff's support on this project and its opinion that this was consistent with your new comprehensive plan. It's designated as West Main, which again is all about being part of downtown. How does the periphery of downtown and the, outside of that purple area, if we remember the zoning map, how does that contribute to and build up everything you're doing downtown? And part of that is having people who don't just work down there, but can walk up to the Oyster Bar at night, or can walk up to the town park, those sorts of things. So this adds to exactly that, and I think that's probably why it's been a successful project in its current state, and it has the ability to be more, which is what, of course, Berkeley Communities sees here and can do. So it's also in conformance with guiding principle number 1, guiding principle number 2, and guiding principle number 10. You guys see those in your staff report. You've heard about them from Mr. Johnson. Those all have to do with providing a range of housing, providing quality of life and nice housing for people at all stages of life, and for creating walkability and creating that layering of uses and housing and the way people use housing in your town. So we're pleased to provide all those elements from your new comprehensive plan to fit right into it. We're not asking for even a district change or a comprehensive plan designation change, just asking for what I would term a technical cleanup to be able to finish this project out. In terms of neighborhood outreach, Mr. Sterling met with the existing HOA several times when he was putting this property under contract, just to make sure that this was something that could be viable. Since, of course, it was all contemplated to be done at once. Now there's people there, they live there, so they needed to be a part of the conversation. There is an agreement that was hatched out between Mr. Kelly, his company, and the existing HOA. So I mentioned the dumpster and the recycling earlier, so there are certain aspects of that were important. There's certain aspects that are important to the town, namely to ensure that the stormwater pond can be used by both sides, as it was originally intended. So those items are obviously outside the purview of a zoning code, so they live inside that agreement between the HOA and between the company that would run this side of things. So we were pleased to get the HOA's sign off on that agreement before we ever even filed this case. So I'll keep it brief with that, but happy to answer any questions, and I have Mr. Kelly with me here as well, if you have any questions for him.
So I'm curious in regards to the way this was originally going to be set up. If everything had stayed according to plan, they could have done this back in '06, basically, or whenever it was.
That's my understanding, just from reading through and talking with Anna.
And then it was the zoning changes that came into play in '08 or '09, whenever that was. Matthew?
When the town adopted the LDO and redid all the zoning districts, was the only subsequent zoning change.
Gotcha. So effectively, this would just be to get it finished as it was originally intended for the most part, is what I'm hearing. Does that sound?
I mean, to be completely transparent, this is a different builder and developer, you know,
Sure.
modernization of the buildings. I'm not saying they'll be identical.
No.
But yes, it's
Well, it's
two more
been 15
multifamily
years
buildings.
plus, so I mean, it'd be hard to pull that off. I mean, the biggest concern I was thinking of was just architectural features matching, but you already addressed that, so that kind of speaks to that point. I think that's all I've got.
Okay, Dennis? All right. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
So one thing that stood out to me I did want to share with y'all is, if you remember, the condition Courtyard Commons was in back before it was bought out by Mr. Kelly's group. It needed a whole lot of work, a lot of TLC. They had to tear out one building, rebuild another, and the one thing that stands out to me is that we do know this developer. We have worked with this developer, so I find it, if we're going to go down this path and we're going to get this finished, it seems to make sense from my perspective.
All right.
And I also don't want to be the only one talking, so.
No, you're good.
All right.
Okay, is there, everybody that wanted to speak? Spoken?
Yes, on behalf of the rezoning of Lennox Square.
Yeah, so we'll open the public hearing. You can come forward and state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Sure, my name is Yolanda White, and my address is 200 Lennox Square, condominiums, Unit 1C. Honorable members of the Town Council, I stand before you as a concerned homeowner of Lennox Square condominiums, expressing our collective apprehensive about a recent development of Berkeley Commercial Developments. On January the 18th, an informal meeting was held to inform new residents and the original owners of this newfound information. Of course, this is the only meeting that they have had with us, the only meeting. The original developers, Blue Ridge companies, assured the current homeowners that there would be similar condominiums for sale built on the two pads. Over the years, by the previous HOA directors, it was an oversight or blindsided to the plans of the two pads. Perhaps together we can explore alternative solutions that strike a balance, accommodating diverse housing needs and safeguarding the unique character of our beloved neighborhood. The introduction of rental property into our community of homeowners raises valid concerns about potential impacts on our neighborhood's character and cohesive. We urge the council to carefully consider the long-term implications on property value, community and aesthetics, and the overall well-being of our residents and delay this development. I'm requesting to delay the consideration for Berkeley's communities, and request that this be tabled because we have a new board, and we do not know all the, we don't know all what the previous board has done, so we do request a delay until April the 8th, next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anyone else here that wanted to speak to this? Amanda, did you? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my name is Tina Cherry. I'm at 100 Lennox, Unit 2B. Okay, my question is, can you put up that slide where the entrance, right, this slide on the right? No, wait a minute. This bottom slide, you said there's going to be 24 units? How many cars will be able to fit for those 24 units? That's the only question.
That's your question?
Yes. That's the only question I have.
Okay.
That's what I need to know.
This board's not able to answer that, but
I mean, I'm asking.
this gentleman can answer it.
Okay. Yeah, I just need to know where will those 24 cars go? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Amanda?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to answer a few things, and then I know Mr. Kelly also wants to speak. First answer about the parking. So the installed parking that already exists was for the entire development. And as you saw in your staff report, that does meet the required parking ratios for the additional proposed units. I imagine that perhaps it's currently being used by the existing residents, so maybe it might feel like a constriction to add new units to existing parking. I will note these are one-bedroom units as opposed to the two-bedroom units in the current two buildings, so it will be fewer folks parking and fewer cars. But it is the required, it does meet the required parking that's required under your ordinance. I also would point out that, and I'll let Mr. Sterling speak to the specifics of all the meetings with the HOAs. He handled that in person, so he can give a lot more detail and color. But there is an agreement, an existing signed agreement from the HOA that was important for us to have in place before we pursued a rezoning. Understanding that, that there are things, as I talked about earlier, there's a lot of things that needed to be worked out. So that was the point of those many meetings and coming to an entire written signed agreement. I will lastly say before I turn it over to Mr. Kelly, of course, as you all know, whether or not a unit is rented or owned is not a consideration that we can legally undertake here tonight as part of the zoning board. However, as you all also all know, anyone can rent their home at any time, even if they were the one to originally buy it. A quick search of Lenox Square right now on the internet shows that there are several units for rent currently. Just further emphasizing why that's not really a zoning consideration. This is about zoning impacts, land use form, comprehensive plan, and those types of items. So that's why we're trying to limit the things we talk about tonight to those zoning purview discussions. Thank you.
Let me ask you a question before you go.
Yes, sir.
You said there's adequate spacing and it meets the code requirements.
That's correct.
By number.
It's not striped right now. Is that correct? Or if it has, it's worn off. You should come. You can answer that when you come up. Yeah. But there's a recorded original plan that had them striped, engineering construction plans.
Yeah, I figured that.
So that's what it's counted off of.
And the original was for but they were supposed to be four units combined, or
That is my understanding.
contiguous, so they would have been 2-bedroom units as well.
That's correct. They're all going to be
So it would have been enough parking for all of that, theoretically.
theoretically. I was not involved in that.
No,
but,
I get it.
theoretically,
I wasn't
yeah.
either, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But I would like to know the number. Yeah, if you can get to it sometime.
Yeah, we've got that information. My name is Sterling Kelly. Our office is at 1515 West Cornwallis Drive in Greensboro. We have owned and managed Courtyard Commons, formerly Jamestown Village Apartments, starting probably in 2013. It was in need of great attention. And what we saw was a well-built community. It had not been well-maintained, but it was well-built and very well located. And for us, that spelled great opportunity. There were, as you may well remember, and if you lived here as long as many of you have, there were 2 buildings that we needed to demolish. They had I think the way the topo on that property was when it was developed was, there was a big hill in the back. It declined as it came toward the road, and a lot of vegetative material was buried in the fill part of that site. And over time, that's going to decay, and the buildings, the foundations were unsafe. So we took those two buildings down, built a clubhouse right up front and two residential buildings. We went through a rezoning to get the additional units at that point in time. And it has been, it's been a great community for us to be involved in. It's been it continues to be very successful. As Amanda spoke earlier, we've been looking ever since for additional opportunities to expand our footprint in Jamestown. And when the for sale sign appeared at the Lenox Square driveway, I got in touch with the owners, and eventually we reached an agreement probably 2 years ago, pursuant to which we would acquire the Phase 2 property with the two building pads, and we hadn't conceived a plan at that point, but we knew that we could easily manage that out of our office at Courtyard Commons, which is an total 86 unit community there. We immediately got in touch with the Condo Owners Association and went through a lengthy series of meetings with the Condo Owners Association board. Respectfully, I need to correct you on the lack of meetings. We twice invited all of the residents to come across the street and meet with us so we could explain what we intended to build, what we hoped we could build, and to address some of the concerns that the residents of Lenox Square as it is today had. And it probably was at least a 15-month process and dialogue that we went through in leading up to the agreement that we reached with the Condo Owners Association. As Amanda indicated, we didn't file this rezoning application until we had reached that agreement with the Condo Owners Association. So the answer to your question, I don't have the specific number. We can get that, but it was designed to add two 12-unit buildings of 2 bedrooms. The whole community was going to be that. What we will do is 2 12-unit buildings, but they will be 1 bedrooms. The footprint on our buildings is a smaller footprint, as you would expect, 1 bedrooms versus 2 bedrooms. Means we will have to demolish the concrete slab, but we will be building in those very 2 locations. I want to say there's probably on the order of 30 parking spaces, but we'll get the specific number to you. Let's see, what else do I need to address? If I answered the questions, or if
Yeah, I just have one other question, unrelated to my question about the parking space.
Yeah.
The agreement that you have with the HOA, did you share it with all the residents?
Well, yes, I think that was shared by I didn't share it.
No.
Yeah, it was shared by the Condo Owners Association board.
No, we're all going to say no.
Oh, is that right?
What?
What?
If you ladies want to come up and to the podium.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, but my understanding was that it had been.
Okay.
That's all I can
Okay.
say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Murray. I live in Building 100, Unit 2A. I've been there ever since day one for the first unit that was sold at Lenox Square. This is not to put anybody down, but we were told about the building or the interest of building out the 2 pads in one meeting. The meetings that they have had were several meetings, from what I'm understanding, over a period of time with the board members. We were not privy to any information except for what was disclosed to us in the first meeting that we had with Berkeley. We've had several discussions with the board or questioned the board of directors of the association, and mum was the word. So anything that was agreed between Berkeley was agreed with Berkeley and the board of directors. The homeowners were very unaware of what the negotiations were. So some of us are here today, and I can honestly say that majority of the homeowners are not in agreement with 1-bedroom apartments that's 50 feet away from us, that will probably be smaller than the square footage of the 2-bedroom units that we have now. We already have situations where people come on the property not knowing what the property is, and we've had issues where where people were trespassing from neighboring communities, so to speak, okay? So a lot of us have questions as to how do you distinguish between Berkeley pieces or apartments versus Lenox Square, how that aesthetic is going to look like, and how are we going to maintain and manage both sides of communities here? Are we going to merge as one, or is it going to be separate? So there's some genuine questions that we all have that nobody has asked us or even discussed with us, not with Berkeley and not with the board of directors. And none of us agree with this build out for 1-bedroom apartments. If you're going to build out, keep it along the same lines that what we already have now. That's what most of us agree on.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? All right. Any discussion?
I have a couple of thoughts. I mean, I certainly understand the concerns, and if there hasn't been enough due diligence, then I certainly encourage that that happens. But the one thing that stays with me is just that, you know, originally this was going to be finished and in some capacity. Now, we're not going to make the final decision on that. It's just about, are we going to recommend that the council take this up for consideration and look at it objectively as far as what the facts are at the time. Realistically, that's going to be no sooner than a month in the future. And I think realistically speaking, for the purposes of the development, we should, you know, at least, and I invite feedback on this, I mean, we should consider going ahead and moving this to the council for their consideration under the circumstances. Thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I'd take a different approach.
Please.
I would have no issue with us extending this a month to give Sterling a chance, it's Mr. Kelly, sorry, a chance to address some of the individuals that actually live there as opposed to the HOA. I'm not sure about the HOA. Are they like off-site, or are they people that live there?
And it's a new board, it's not existing board anymore, so there is a new board.
Well, I guess I would ask that we continue it just 1 month to give you a chance to share what you actually agreed to with everybody. Just so they're aware. That would be my approach.
I understand.
Make the motion.
Yeah, I would to continue it for a month.
To continue it to the April 8th Planning Board meeting at 6 PM in the Civic Center without further advertisement.
Yes.
If I may, we talked about the contractual nature with selling and the
I
real
get
estate
that, I
closing.
understand.
So just looking at timelines, would it be possible to come back in April, as you've requested, and still maintain the May council timeline that's already been established?
Yeah. We should be able to do
Public
that.
hearing day in April. Possibly. I'll have to look at it.
Is that a yes, y'all? Good?
Give us 1 second.
Sure.
Sorry.
1001, you're up, Matt.
I get where you're coming from, though.
If I were to open it, I'd want at least talk.
Yes, we concur that it would be.
You can?
To meet the May.
Okay.
All right.
So the motion is to,
So in other words, 1 second, I'm sorry. So in other words, to your question earlier, we can still hold to the council meeting in May if we move forward with this now.
I'm just trying to find a way to keep us on schedule for the real estate closing. I certainly understand and appreciate the comments we've heard tonight. I do think, we tried to honor the correct process to approach a homeowners association that is a governing body elected to represent its owners, and, it's hard to know or police what they then do.
Sure.
We were told and understood that they were communicating with their residents the whole time. So, I'm not sure where the breakdown occurred there, or how many times a board will change, or, so I'm trying to establish a time frame that we can stay within so that we can still honor our contractual obligations.
Makes sense. I think that there's obviously an opportunity for that board to better communicate with its people under the circumstances.
Right.
And I actually know somebody who lives over there who will shoot me if I steer it wrong, but I don't think it's going to be in bad stead when the time comes. But I don't see that there's necessarily a problem, giving it another meeting to make sure that there's been ample opportunity. I agree with what you were saying a minute ago, Dennis. So that's really the only thing that comes to mind. But as long as we can hold to the existing schedule you had in terms of going before the council, and that we get this wrapped up in the next meeting, I think that it's being about as fair and balanced as we can be.
So you're going to second my motion?
I'll second your motion,
Thank you.
but I wanted to make sure I thought it through.
before we vote on that, I would suggest that if you have a new board, you all need to be
Active.
in talking to them about this.
Yeah.
okay?
Well, we are the new board. The previous board is not.
Gotcha.
I thought I'd come and speak, and this one too, I thought you were going to speak, and she's a part of the community too, so.
Well, the long story short is real straightforward. I mean, just make sure everybody's on the same page, because yeah, please.
All right, the motion is to continue the hearing until,
And you're going to keep
the 8th, and keep the, continue the public.
To the April 8th Planning Board meeting at 6 PM in the Civic Center without further advertisement. Yeah. And then there's a second.
And I second it.
Yeah.
So we just need to,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay. That takes care of that one. We're moving our way down to number 6, right?
That's right.
This is the time when we have an opportunity for the public to comment about most anything. Anybody signed up for that, or anybody want to address the committee about anything? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. This is.